God, where do I even begin with this game? Well, I decided to get Cruelty Squad after noticing its sudden surge in popularity on this platform. I watched a few videos and I felt like I knew what I was going in for. A fun, weird, quirky little game with odd mechanics and gameplay. And I'm no stranger to games like this. I've played Post-White in the past, and I've even said in my review that I really enjoy these kinds of games that push boundaries and go against the standards of modern game design. But oh man, Cruelty Squad really took me by surprise. I don't think I've ever felt more lost playing a video game in my entire life. Barely anything in this game makes sense. Hell, even trying to understand the UI and navigating through the level select screen feels like you're trying to translate some sort of alien language. The visuals are just pure eyeball cancer. You've got neon colors that constantly fight with each other, this shit, buildings that look like this, and for fuck's sake, the door textures have a fucking face on them. But I gotta say, I enjoyed every minute of this game's weirdness. Alright, I'll try to break everything down to basics and make this game as digestible as possible. Starting with the story. Cruelty Squad, I'm pretty sure, is set in the distant future where you play as a cyborg who recently lost his job and becomes depressed. You get a call from this pig dude who instantly mocks you for being a sore loser, and then he hires you to be his hitman, and that's pretty much it. Throughout the rest of the game, the pig dude puts you in jobs where you have to assassinate CEOs of large corporations. How you decide to do it is entirely up to you, whether it's going in guns blazing or sneaking around the entire level. The level design satisfies both playstyles, but I only really stick to the stealthy approach since it's marginally easier and safer compared to going in loud. However, it doesn't stop the game from being a huge test of your patience. I mean, right off the bat, if you're not a fan of games of trial and error, then I would not recommend this game to you. The bulk of this game is spending huge amounts of time in one level trying to find the most efficient route to get to your targets. And you'll also be seeing the game over screen quite a lot since the enemies are as tough as nails and tear you to shreds if you're not quick on your feet. I remember on my first playthrough of this game, I've probably died around 50 times on just the first level. And if it was literally any other game, I would have called it quits at that point, but no matter how much I died and how much of this game I just didn't understand, I was still hooked. Going through the stealth approach, popping enemies in the back of the head, and coming up with elaborate, foolproof plans to ensure that I wouldn't die again was enough for me to not lose my shit over this game, and just tell myself, let's try that again, but this time let's switch things up a bit. Also, I guess while we're on the topic of death, I feel like this would be a good time to introduce you to the difficulty system, because it's so much more different than anything that you're probably used to. Instead of choosing what difficulty you want to play, the game kinda does it for you. You see this really ugly border around the screen? That's not a setting I enabled just for aesthetics. This border indicates what difficulty you're playing. You always start off on hard, or divine light as the game likes to call it. Enemies do more damage, but you're able to open certain doors that lead to secret areas, at the cost of this difficulty being lost as soon as you die. After you die, you go into a flesh automaton. Enemies deal half damage and you have to pay $500 every time you die. You can only die 4 times on this difficulty before you go into power and misery. Dying doesn't cost you anything and you're able to eat corpses to regain health. On paper, it's actually a good idea to have the game auto-adjust the difficulty depending on how well you're doing. But in execution, I think Cruelty Squad sort of missed the mark. For starters, if you want to uncover a large majority of the game's secrets, you're going to need Divine Light. The only issue is that you lose it as soon as you die, and the only way you could get it back again is by going up to a shrine scene the very last level of the game, or in a few secret locations. It's kind of a pain to replay a level to get it back again just so you can check out a secret. Then there's the medium difficulty, Flesh Automaton, which offers no perks, making it useless to keep. You might as well skip to Power and Misery just so you have the perk of eating corpses for 1 point of health. It's not much, but it's good to fall back on, especially since healing items are so hard to come by and only heal you with 5 points of health. Also, it's much easier to harvest organs from your enemies and sell them to the market on this difficulty. Yeah, you heard me. You can sell organs for some cash as well as investing in the stock market that constantly changes as you're playing. Pro tip, pay attention to what Pigman over here says. Before the start of every mission, he gives away some details about the company you'll be attacking, which plays a key role in the stock market. Because once you finish that mission, the company's stocks will plummet, so watch out. And if you've managed to find a fishing rod, you can use it to catch all sorts of abominations and sell them off to the fish market. Surprisingly enough though, there's not a whole lot you can do with your hard-earned cash. You might think you need it for purchasing weapons, but no, if you want more weapons, you steal them off of dead bodies, and bring them with you to the level exit once you're done with the mission. You'll instead be using your money to buy cybernetic upgrades, and while these upgrades aren't exactly like replacing an arm with a chainsaw or something cool like that, instead these upgrades are just really disgusting, and make your character an even more humiliating shell of a man than he already is. Take for example the upgrade that lets you double jump. Rather than having something cool like jets that spew out flames, you instead have holes at the bottom of your feet that shoot out a concoction of body fluids that give you an extra boost. If you're having trouble getting to an area that's up high, get the Grapendix, an upgrade that lets you use your intestine as a makeshift grappling hook. If you want to move faster, buy Speed Glands. I don't really know what a speed gland is, but judging by the picture, I don't think I wanna know. These upgrades, as horrendous as they are actually essential in helping you go through the levels much easier. The Grapendix, I'd say, is an absolute must-have, giving you a whole new window of opportunities when it comes to finding some really clever spots that take out your targets. And with how many upgrades there are, this game almost begs you to come back and replay it. However, a little more on that later. Right now I feel like it'd be a good time to bring up the controls. First and foremost, like I said before, this game loves to do everything differently. Another one of those things being reloading. In every shooter, the Archie has become synonymous with reloading. However, Cruelty Squad spits that shit out and turns it upside down. You want to know how to reload? Because let me tell you, it's not with any key on your keyboard. Instead, you have to hold right click and drag your mouse down. I mean, I'll give consumer soft products some points for originality. I haven't played a game where I had to do this to reload, and let me tell you, it's actually not all that bad. It's a little clunky and it's a pain in the ass when you're in the middle of a fight, but it's really not the worst thing in the world. Along with that, the gunplay is surprisingly decent. I thought for sure that out of anything in this game, gunplay would have been butchered to shit, but it's really functional and I've generally never had an issue with it, even using some other weapons. Other than that though, you've got Q and E to lean, R to interact, shift to aim, 3 to use whatever upgrade you have equipped in your arm slot. I recommend changing this because this has fucked me up a ton. G to throw shit, and of course you've got a simple yet powerful kick which can be done by pressing F. Perfect for any of your destructive needs, whether it's doors or human spines. Obviously the control scheme is very weird and it takes a lot of getting used to. Hell, even I'm not used to it yet. Postal 2 made it a habit for me to kick down any doors I'm about to go through in games that both have a kick and a door. And while that doesn't really go over well in a game like Cruelty Squad where doors will be your only shield in a room full of hit scanners, the levels, while they do all follow a similar formula of kill the target and do it however you want, some do mix things up a bit. One of which being apartment atrocities. You start the level off with the police trying to raid your apartment, and you're tasked with killing your landlord, who is literally in the room next door. The level really doesn't put an emphasis on headhunting as much as the other levels do, since after you kill your landlord, the entire level just becomes you surviving the onslaught of police officers coming your way. And unlike the other levels, which give you a balanced mix of both stealthy and loud paths to take, this level is mostly just you facing the music and gunning down anyone you see. Another level that changes things up is the last one, the Archon Grid. In terms of the game's really trashy aesthetic, the Archon Grid wears it like it's a badge. It is by far the ugliest looking level you'll probably ever play in any game ever, and the music that plays here is weirdly unsettling. It sounds like something that'd be straight out of those really obscure educational MS-DOS games that came out in the 90s. All of this bundled together makes this level feel like a fever dream to play through, and I don't even mean that metaphorically. As much as I appreciate the vibe this level puts off, its design is just a fucking mess. You will always be led to a straight dead end. There's just this giant ass room right underneath where you spawn, which as far as I know is utterly pointless because you never go here. And there's these rocks that the game does a pretty shit job of communicating to you that some are breakable and some aren't. And the final boss, which surprise surprise, he's also a huge mess to deal with. I couldn't fucking stand him at first because it seemed like any weapon I used just wasn't doing any damage to him, and if I wanted to get a better angle on his weak spots, I'd be obliterated within seconds either by one of his projectiles or the enemies he spawns. However, an LMG makes this boss fight significantly easier. The entirety of this level just made me leave the game with a really sour taste in my mouth. But you know, I was willing to drop that to enjoy replaying all the levels with all the upgrades I have and finding all the secret. I didn't really do that. When it came time to play the post game, I was genuinely looking forward to it, but I'll be honest with you and say that for the life of me, I just couldn't bring myself to enjoy it. And I assure you, it's not because of the Archon Grid. Now don't take what I'm about to say as fact and let it deter you from buying this game, because your experience with it could be entirely different than mine. There's a bunch of people who thoroughly enjoyed the post-game, however, that just wasn't the case for me. For me, Cruelty Squad lost its charm trying to play it the second time around. I enjoyed playing this game completely blind and running around like the AI when you shoot at them, but after beating it, that feeling was just gone. I've already done all the levels and I've already found the most efficient ways to take out the targets, and going back to them with all my upgrades just made them way too easy for me. And I know I've barely even scratched the surface when it comes to secrets, but hunting for them became repetitive really fast. I just did not have the energy to really put up with it anymore. Perhaps I didn't give it enough time to breathe after finishing it, but at this point, if I wanted to have fun with the game, I would have had to try my best to squeeze it out. But like I said, this was my own personal experience with the post-game and not necessarily a gripe or a fully fledged critique on the game as a whole. With that being said though, would I recommend Cruelty Squad? Honestly, I'd wait for a sale. This game is $20, and personal experience with the post-game aside, I feel like that price tag is way too much for a game like this. Cruelty Squad is fun, but I don't think it's worth as much as Doom 2016. A more reasonable price I'd say would be around the $10 range, because you never really know what you're going to get out of this game. You go into it and absolutely hate it the moment you start the first level, or appreciate it for what it is. And I mean, if this game didn't suddenly explode in popularity, I guarantee you most people would be hesitant in throwing away $20 for a game that looks like this. If you are truly interested in trying it out, I highly suggest doing your research, watching some more videos, and just really trying to get a good understanding of it. Because like I said earlier, this game is so incredibly niche and weird that you'll quite honestly never know what you'll get out of it. So to blindly throw away $20 at it is in my opinion quite a brave, but yet a very stupid move.
I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy. I'm busy.